So without further ado, I'll go directly into the high point of this evening, which is to recognize an individual who has been exemplary in his commitment to the Republican Party platform and the constitutions of the United States and New Hampshire. Some of you who know me well know that I got involved in Republican politics because I was concerned that our elected officials, particularly Republicans, were not advancing our platform or standing up for Republican values or standing up for each other against the assaults we find from our adversaries. I got involved, and as I got to know people, I got to know Bill O'Brien through the House Republican Alliance, and they were involved in checking legislation against the Constitution, their party platform. So I had a great affinity for that, and I started, I guess the word would be, hanging around with them and joining their planning sessions. I got to know Bill very well. I know no one in this state who has been as stalwart in protecting the New Hampshire advantage, in protecting the Republican Party platform and advancing its interests, and protecting the party. And he was actually chairman of the platform committee last time. I was a member. And I firmly believe that's our recipe for good governance. That's our recipe for a just and honorable society. And I support anyone who supports it. So I'm happy here to give the Hillsborough County Republican Committee's Lincoln Reagan Award for 2012 to New Hampshire House Speaker Bill O'Brien.
Thank you, Ray. It truly is an honor, and I want to acknowledge all the dignitaries we have here this evening, certainly not the least of which is Speaker Gingrich. You're welcome here. I know we have other presidential candidates here. We have so many representatives, senators, and all. The only one I want to make sure I don't miss, if he's in the room, is Governor John Sununu. That would be dangerous for me. But I gather he isn't here. You know, at these occasions, it appears to me that award recipients often engage in some false modesty about their award belonging to somebody else. It should have been an award shared with someone else. But here, that isn't modesty. That is the reality. Any award that comes to me or any member of leadership of the New Hampshire House this term is an award not to an individual, but it's to a group of individuals, to a group of conservatives, a group of conservatives who have done just what Ray talked about, which is to look to our constitutions and look to our party platforms and say, what are the promises that were made to us by the founders? What were the promises that we made to the people of New Hampshire, and how do we fulfill them? And we've spent our time this session doing here. I stand representing my colleagues in the New Hampshire House of Representatives. They are the true recipients of this award, and it would be improper of me to stand here alone when so many of them are in this room. And so I know it's going to cause a little chaos, but hey, I do that. My representatives can come up here with me, because this is their award. You know, it's just such an honor to represent the people of New Hampshire, but it's an honor to work with these individuals. They're some of the finest individuals that I've had the opportunity to work with, and we're achieving great things for New Hampshire. The legislature is not the executive branch, where one person can be pointed to as the catalyst of all change. In New Hampshire, the House of Representatives has 400 members. In the New Hampshire House this term, we have 294 Republicans. In the New Hampshire House this term, we have 250 to 260 Republicans who are consistently faithful to our party. and its principles of limited government, liberty, and free market solutions. And it's taken all these 260 Republicans to achieve the successes we've realized so far this term. And these folks who have joined me on the stage have fought the battles with me to achieve these successes. And let's review some of them. The list is so long, even though we've only gone through the first half of our term. But we, for example, put in place a state budget that eliminated an $800 million structural deficit by reducing state-funded spending by almost 18%. We put a state budget in place that for the first time, did not raise one tax or one fee, but reduced over 12 separate taxes and fees, or eliminated them. We eliminated the $70 surcharge in motor vehicle registrations. And that's important because that tax was put in over our votes when we were in the minority, but with the promise that it was a one-time temporary tax. And so, of course, temporary to the Democrats means that it's forever. And we said to the people of New Hampshire, no, it is temporary. We're keeping our promises. We put in place a state budget that has saved the average family in New Hampshire from having to pay over $3,000 in more taxes that they would have owed if the prior crowd of spenders had remained in control. A state budget that achieved these savings based on realistic revenue estimates, no more borrowing to cover operating expenses, and no downshifting to local communities. We put the public employee retirement plan on a glide path to solvency with the structural reforms that we put in place. We passed over 43 bills that in big ways, in small, begins the process of deregulating various industries and business, making New Hampshire what it was when I used to be a child living in Massachusetts, looking north, and knowing that's the place that you did business in New England. We're going to be that place again. And we're not stopping. We went back into session on Wednesday of this week. We had 2 session days. And look what we've done so far. We overrode a Democratic governor's veto to allow title loan lenders back into New Hampshire and allow our citizens that have temporary credit problems, that are going through a hard patch in their life, to get short-term loans without having to go to loan sharks. We overrode the governor's veto a second time to allow parents to protect their children from objectionable materials in school. We passed and sent to the Senate House Bill 309 that repeals 7 health care insurance mandates, preparing our state for the competitive market that is going to be the Republican solution to health care insurance costs when Obamacare gets repealed. Just this week, we after years of trying and being stymied by abortion advocates, we passed the fetal homicide bill.
Yes.
We passed and sent to the Senate House Bill 638, which requires that complaints of sexual assaults by TSA personnel at Manchester and Boston Airport be tracked, and those statistics be made available to the people so that we can know how our federal government is treating us. And we haven't given up the fight for worker freedom. We passed House Bill 383, which prohibits union dues and agency fees from being taken by unions from the paychecks of state employees and put into the union political fund coffers. And look where we're going. We have an important session here. We have a constitutional amendment that will prohibit an income tax. We will pass that in the House. We'll send it to the Senate with a 60% vote required, and we hope that it gets for all of our sakes on the ballot. But that's not where we've ended with our constitutional reform. We have sent to the Senate CACR, Constitutional Amendment, Constitutional Resolution 6, that requires a 60% vote in both the Senate and the House for more borrowing or more taxing. Those are the reforms we need. We have in front of us House Bill 222, which we will pass, that requires any agency-imposed fee increases be approved by the legislature. Last 4 years, they raised over 100 taxes and fees out of the legislature. Then the agencies raised another 44. That won't happen again once we put that into law. We have before us, and we will pass House Bill 458, which is a sunset law for agency and judicial programs. These are the reforms that we're working on. We've had a great session so far. We've kept our promises of working for a frugal, limited, business-friendly government in New Hampshire, and we'll continue to work to that goal. Now, I am so pleased that so many of you were able to come here. We have presidential candidates that are here now and are coming, and I'm pleased that they're here to recognize the legislative achievements that we have had so far. But let me be a little bit political here, if I can be. Is that okay? I assume that it's acceptable. We're all Republicans here. As I survey this field of candidates, Newt Gingrich, Rick Santorum, John Huntsman, Ron Paul, who are here, or send surrogates, or are working so hard for our party, I believe, and I'm very proud of my party, and I believe we have a great group of candidates. Each of them stands in stark contrast with the current post-American president, whose presence in the White House so threatens the economic and political future of our country. A president who has shoehorned 50 years of socialist creep into a 3-year period of disastrous governance. A president that has to leave if we are going to recapture what is... Now, each of us probably come to the point, will certainly come to the point where we have a preference. I have a preference. My preference is for a man who has experience and the history of success, the demonstrated success of bringing transformative change to Washington, and that is Speaker Gingrich. Oh, yeah. But let us be clear, out of this field we do need a conservative, and I believe that there is a search for a conservative, and our hope is that our party finds that conservative. But we need to come together in Hillsborough County, in New Hampshire, in the nation, to get behind the Republican alternative to this president. It has been said many times that an election is the most important faceless. And how can we believe other than that in the election that is coming up for president in this year? So let us work hard. Let us hopefully select the best candidate. But when we select a Republican candidate, let's get behind that person. Thank you.
How are you?
As is the tradition, we give a gift to the winner of our, or the awardee, I should say, of our Lincoln Reagan Award. And this time what we have is a granite, piece of granite, and it's cut in the shape of the state of New Hampshire. And I think it well represents the good conservative values of this state. And I would say it also represents just about how tough you have to be the Speaker of the House, turning around 4 years of excess and putting things back on track. I also want to give this jointly to Bill and Roxanne. You know, we think about all the things that go on in the political process, and we focus on candidates, or if you're activists, you focus on the campaigns or the party. But I want to point out that that is a joint effort. The spouses, the partners of these people are the ones also contributing time and effort, watching them go off and listening to some of the things that are said about them and getting beyond it. So I want to thank both of you. And one other item here. Irina Owens is fulfilling the Vanna White role here by bringing out the prize. Thank you very, very much. Bill, this is sort of composite. This is a composite of some daily scenes around the office. We sent our clandestine operative, which was Irina, up to the house one day, and she just took a bunch of pictures and got some memorabilia. So we put it all together, and again, Bill, nice. Thank you.
No, I'm not even bullying anybody.
Unfortunately, we didn't catch him bullying anybody, but we have an appointment to be back.
You just got a camera right over your head.
Great, thank you for so much, and with Roxanne's permission, I will keep this in my office. I will keep it out of the reach of the governor, though, so he can't throw it at me when I have to. But I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll leave this up here so you can have a chance to look at it.
GrokTV.